Okay, so here I'm going to show you the inside of the box, and as you can see when I open it up, there's the lid I made for it I hot glued those pieces of cardboard on. This here is the limit switch, which is mounted just above the edge of the top of the box. That way when the lid goes on, it keeps it down, and when that limit switch is up, it is active. There's the extra battery over there in that corner, which is used for the electric match. And here's kind of everything as a whole. The rocks are in there to hold it down because it was very windy when I was testing. And here is the IR receiver, which receives the signal from the IR. That way I can arm it or disarm it at any point. There's the red LED, there's the blue LED. And you can see I soldered those there so I can get it extended out from the breadboard a bit. And this is the relay that allows current to go through into the electric match. There's that extra battery. And then there's the battery that powers the whole Arduino board, which gets plugged in there. There's the mortar. And right here I'm showing you guys the buzzer, which is also soldered to extend it out if necessary because its leads wouldn't go in, the one I bought. And here's my wiring diagram, which I made in Tinkercad. You can see we got the two LEDs here, the IR receiver, the buzzer, the limit switch, and the electric match. So you can kind of see how I wired this project. Okay, and here's my flowchart for the project, which I made in draw.io. And just kind of walking you guys through, we start here in the disarm state, and then it checks if the IR remote is pressed, specifically the red power button on the upper left. And if it's not, it goes back into the disarm state and we'll check again. If so, it moves on to an arm state, and the next thing it checks is if the lid is removed. If the lid is removed, which it checks through seeing if the limit switch is released and pushed up. If it's not, it goes back to check the IR remote to see if the box is armed. If it is, it goes back to the arm state, checks the lid again. If it is, it moves on, and now it checks the IR remote again to make sure it's armed. And if it's not, it'll just stay there and keep circling through. But if it is armed, it moves on to the buzzer and LED blink sequence, which lasts for 10 seconds. Throughout this time, it's constantly checking if it's receiving a disarm signal. If it ever receives that, it goes back through that line there and sees if the IR remote is pressed and armed again. If it is, it goes back into the blink sequence. Now, if it makes it past that 10 seconds, it immediately flips the relay and launches the firework. There's no going back there. Then once it's done, it goes back into the disarm state. Alright, here's a quick scroll through of all my code, and it has changed a little bit from my first upload of this project. There's a few tweaks made, and I'll go over those in the final code in a second. Okay, so here's the first snippet of code that I wanted to discuss, and this is basically all the IR portion. So the first few lines simply decode the signal and register it as a case. And if it reads as case 69, then the box will be set into an arm state, which is state 1, and that will be through the press of the upper left-hand button. Now, if it reads as case 71, which is the upper right-hand button, then the box will go into a disarm state, which is 0, and everything will be deactive. That is essentially how it works, and there's the IR receive.resume at the end to read more signals. So the major change that was made was the fact that originally I had an else statement that just said else put the box into state 0, and basically if the box picked up any IR command that wasn't a case 69, it would immediately disarm the box. And I had a lot of issues with it just picking up stray signals and disarming the box, so I changed that to a specific disarm button. Okay, so something important I wanted to mention here was the conflicting libraries that I encountered. And it turns out that the tone function, or no tone library, that sort of area, conflicted with the IR library to the point where I was not able to restart my code and go through again after my box disarmed because the IR receiver was not able to pick up any signals or anything. It would just go say 0 every time. So I ended up taking out these two lines, tone and no tone, and I didn't have to reset my board, as you can see here, because originally I had to reset my Arduino every time that my code ran through and the box got disarmed. Okay, so this next snippet of code essentially determines whether the box shall go into an active state. What it does here is that it reads the limit state, and if the limit state is 1, or in other words, the limit switch is up, the lid has been taken off. And if the box is armed, which is state 1, then it'll set the box into active state, which is state 2, and it'll grab some times from the millis function, so time 1 and time blink. Okay, so this code snippet is for the LEDs and the buzzer. So if the Arduino's internal timer minus time 1, which you grabbed when the box is confirmed to be active, well, if that's less than 10 seconds, then we're going to do this. If the Arduino's internal timer minus time blink, which we grabbed from above, if that's less than 50, we're going to do red high, blue low, buzzer high. If it's greater than 50 but less than 100, red low, blue high, buzzer low. Else if a tenth of a second has passed, then we're going to do reset the time blink to the millis Arduino internal timer. So that'll keep resetting and looping through until 10 seconds have passed. That way we can flicker the lights and alternate the buzzer. Alright, so this last part of the code is for the firework, and essentially what it says here is after 10 seconds have passed from when the limit switch is up and the box is armed, but less than 12, we're going to want to set digital write the death pin to high, which is the relay pin. So we'll open up the relay, send current through there to the electric match. Then we're going to light up both LEDs and keep them constant, and we're going to digital write to the buzzer high and keep that constant tone for buzzing. Now, after this has gone through and we're at 12 seconds, then we're going to want to set the box to disarmed. And that's pretty much how all my code goes. Alright, thanks for watching the video.